Daniel Harper checked his watch for the third time in as many minutes. 7:15 p.m., she was late. Or maybe she wasn't coming at all, which would be typical for blind dates arranged by well-meaning friends who thought they knew what you needed better than you did. At 34, Daniel was the founder and CEO of Harper Tech Solutions, a cybersecurity firm that protected some of the world's largest corporations from digital threats. He was successful, wealthy, and according to his best friend Kevin, criminally single. "You need to get out there," Kevin had insisted over drinks 2 weeks ago. "You've been alone since Jessica left 3 years ago." "That's too long. I'm fine alone. I'm busy." Building a company takes time. Building a company is what you use as an excuse to avoid living your life. "I'm setting you up with someone. Just one date. If it doesn't work out, I'll never bug you again." So here Daniel sat in an upscale downtown cafe, wearing his best suit, waiting for a blind date he hadn't wanted in the first place. The cafe was busy with the after-work crowd, professionals grabbing coffee or wine before heading home. Daniel felt conspicuous sitting alone at a table for two, obviously waiting for someone. At 7:20, a woman walked in. Daniel's breath caught. She was stunning. Blonde hair in loose waves, wearing a white blouse and a red skirt that suggested both professionalism and style. She looked nervous, her eyes scanning the cafe as if searching for someone. When her gaze landed on Daniel, her face transformed with recognition. She walked directly to his table and Daniel stood to greet her. "Daniel Harper?" she asked, her voice soft but clear. "That's me. You must be—" Daniel realized he didn't actually know her name. Kevin had been frustratingly vague about details. "Sophia. Sophia Martinez." She didn't sit down. Instead, she stayed standing, looking at Daniel with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "Would you like to sit? Can I get you something to drink? Actually, I need to tell you something first." Sophia glanced around at the other patrons, then leaned closer to Daniel, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I'm not here for a blind date. I'm just here to say thank you." Daniel stared at her, confused. "Thank you for what?" "I don't understand." "Kevin said he was setting me up with someone. He did, but I asked him to. Because I needed to meet you, to thank you in person for what you did. I still don't know what you're talking about." "Have we met before?" "No, but 5 years ago, you saved my life." Daniel's mind raced, trying to place her face, trying to remember any life-saving scenarios from 5 years ago. He came up blank. "I think you have me confused with someone else. I'm not a doctor or a firefighter. I'm a tech CEO. I don't save lives. You saved mine." Sophia finally sat down and Daniel followed suit, completely lost. 5 years ago, I was in a very dark place. My father had just died, leaving my family with massive debt. My mother was sick. My younger brother needed surgery we couldn't afford. I was 23 years old, working 3 jobs, and it still wasn't enough. She paused, her eyes bright with tears. I was walking home from my night shift at a diner, and I was so tired, so overwhelmed. I stood on a bridge looking down at the water, and I thought about how easy it would be to just end it all. To stop fighting, to stop hurting. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He could see where this was going, but he still didn't know his role in her story. "And then a man walked by," Sophia continued. "He was in a suit, clearly had been working late. He didn't know me. Had no reason to care about some random woman on a bridge at midnight. But he stopped." Daniel's memory stirred. "A bridge? 5 years ago? Late night walk home from the office? He asked if I was okay," Sophia said. "I said I was fine. He said I didn't look fine and would I like to talk. I said no, but he didn't leave. He just stood there with me, not saying anything, just being present. And after a few minutes, he said, 'I don't know what you're going through, but I know it feels unbearable right now. And I know that feeling passes. Please give it one more day.' Just one more day," Daniel remembered now. The woman on the bridge. He'd been working late as usual, walking home because he needed to clear his head. He'd seen her leaning over the railing, and something about her posture had triggered alarm bells. "I stayed with you for almost an hour," Daniel said slowly, the memory coming back in fragments. "You finally agreed to let me walk you home. You lived in an apartment above a laundromat. You remembered?" Sophia smiled through tears. "You walked me home. You made sure I was safe inside. And before you left, you gave me your business card and said if I ever needed help to call you. That you knew people had resources and that no problem was truly unsolvable? I remember. You never called. I didn't need to, because you'd already saved me. That night, I decided to give it one more day, like you said. And then another day. And another. I found resources I didn't know existed. Got my mother into a program that covered her treatments. Found funding for my brother's surgery. Slowly, impossibly, things got better. I'm glad. But I still don't understand why you're here now. Why the elaborate setup with Kevin? Sophia leaned back in her chair. Because I've thought about you every day for 5 years. The stranger who stopped on a bridge and refused to let me give up. I wanted to find you, to thank you, but all I had was your business card, and calling seemed inadequate. How do you call someone and say thank you for saving my life without it sounding crazy? So you found Kevin instead? I found your company. Started following your success. Harper Tech Solutions has been in the news a lot. And I discovered that Kevin Rhodes, your COO, goes to the same gym as my roommate. She introduced us and I told him the story. He said you were impossible to set up on dates, that you'd refuse any direct introduction, so we came up with a plan. To trick me into meeting you. To give me a chance to say thank you. In person. The way you deserve to be thanked. Sophia reached across the table and took Daniel's hand. Daniel Harper, you saved my life 5 years ago when you had absolutely no obligation to stop. You didn't just prevent me from making a terrible decision. You gave me hope that strangers could be kind, that the world had good people in it, that I was worth saving. Daniel felt emotion welling up in his chest. You were always worth saving. I just happened to be there. But you did stop. So many people wouldn't have. They would have walked by, assumed someone else would help, convinced themselves it wasn't their problem. But you stopped. You stayed. You cared. Anyone would have done the same. No, they wouldn't have. And that's why I needed to find you. To tell you that because of you, I'm alive. I finished my degree. My mother is healthy. My brother is thriving. I'm working as a social worker now, helping other people who are in the dark places I used to be. All of that happened because one stranger on a bridge refused to walk past someone in pain. Daniel felt tears in his own eyes now. I'm glad you're okay. I've thought about you too over the years. Wondered if you were all right. If things got better, they did. Thanks to you. Sophia squeezed his hand. So that's it. That's why I'm here. Not for a blind date, though Kevin seemed to think that might be a nice bonus. Just to say thank you, to let you know that the small act of kindness you probably forgot about changed someone's entire life. I didn't forget about you. I just hoped you were okay. They sat in silence for a moment, hands still clasped across the table. Around them, the cafe buzzed with conversation and life, oblivious to the profound moment happening between two strangers, or rather, two people who'd been strangers once, connected briefly by crisis, and were now meeting again under very different circumstances. So now what? Daniel asked. You've said your thank you. Mission accomplished, Sophia smiled, a hint of mischief in her eyes. Well, Kevin went to a lot of trouble to arrange this fake blind date. Seems a shame to waste it. Would you like to have dinner with me? As actual people, not as savior and saved? I promise I'm much better company when I'm not contemplating jumping off bridges. Daniel laughed despite himself. That's possibly the darkest icebreaker I've ever heard. Too soon? Maybe a little. But yes, I'd like to have dinner with you. Kevin's been nagging me about being too isolated. Might as well prove him right that I needed to meet someone, even if the circumstances were completely bizarre. They moved to a restaurant down the street, and over dinner, Sophia told Daniel about her life over the past 5 years. The struggles and triumphs. The way she'd rebuilt from rock bottom. The social work program she'd started to help other young people in crisis. I work with at-risk youth now, Sophia explained. Kids who are where I was, overwhelmed, desperate, ready to give up. I tell them my story. About the stranger who stopped on a bridge. About choosing one more day and then another and then another. Some of them listen. Some don't. But the ones who do, who choose to stay, who choose to fight, they make everything worth it. You took your pain and turned it into purpose, Daniel observed. That's remarkable. You inspired me. You showed me that strangers can care. That kindness exists. That one person can make a difference. Sophia paused. What about you? What's your life been like? Daniel found himself opening up in ways he usually didn't. He told her about building his company from nothing, about the long hours and sacrifices, about his ex-fiancée Jessica, who'd left because she couldn't compete with his work for his attention. "I've been alone since then," Daniel admitted. "Told myself I was too busy for relationships. That work was enough. But the truth is I'm lonely. I just didn't know how to fix it." "Maybe you start by stopping on bridges," Sophia said with a gentle smile. "Metaphorically speaking, by being present with people instead of just professionally connected to them." "Is that your professional social worker advice?" "That's my friend advice. Social worker advice would involve more therapeutic techniques and fewer metaphors." They talked for hours, long after their plates were cleared. The restaurant staff began giving them pointed looks around 10 p.m., clearly wanting to close. "I should let you go," Sophia said reluctantly. "I've taken up enough of your evening with my elaborate gratitude scheme." "I'm glad you did. This has been the most interesting date or not date or whatever this was that I've had in years." "Me too." Sophia stood and gathered her things. "Thank you for dinner, and for 5 years ago, and for tonight, for listening to my story and not thinking I'm completely crazy." "I don't think you're crazy. I think you're brave. For surviving, for thriving, for tracking me down just to say thank you." Outside the restaurant, they stood in the cool evening air, both reluctant to leave. "Can I see you again?" Daniel asked. "Not because you feel obligated, but because I'd genuinely like to get to know you better. The you that exists now in the present, not just as the woman from the bridge. I'd like that. A lot." They exchanged numbers, real numbers this time, not business cards. As Sophia walked away, she turned back and called out, "Thank you, Daniel. For everything. Thank you for finding me, for letting me know you're okay." Over the next several months, Daniel and Sophia dated properly. They went to museums and movies, had long dinners and longer conversations. Daniel learned about Sophia's work with troubled youth, and he started donating to her program, using his resources to help kids in crisis get the support they needed. Sophia learned about Daniel's passion for cybersecurity, his desire to protect people from digital threats, his tendency to work too much and forget to live. "You saved me from one kind of death," Sophia told him one evening. "Let me save you from another. The slow death of isolation and workaholism. Is that what this is? A mutual saving society? Maybe. Or maybe it's just two people who met at the right time in the right way and decided they were better together than apart." Daniel found himself falling in love with Sophia in ways he'd never expected. She was strong without being hard, compassionate without being naive, joyful despite having every reason to be cynical. And Sophia fell in love with Daniel's quiet kindness, his genuine desire to help people, his willingness to be vulnerable despite his successful exterior. 1 year after their blind date that wasn't, Daniel took Sophia back to the bridge where they'd first met. It was late evening, the city lights reflecting off the water below. "Why are we here?" Sophia asked, though she knew. "Because this is where I met the most important person in my life," Daniel said. "I've been thinking about that night a lot, about how random it was that I walked past that specific bridge at that specific time, about how close we both came to never having this. Divine intervention? Fate? I don't know what to call it, but I'm grateful for it." Daniel pulled out a small box. "Sophia, 5 years ago I asked you to give it one more day, and you did. You gave it one more day and then another and another until those days became a life, a beautiful, meaningful life. Daniel, now I'm asking you for something else. Give me all your days, the good ones and the hard ones, the ordinary ones and the extraordinary ones. Marry me. Let's build a life together. Let's prove that sometimes the most unlikely meetings become the most important relationships." Sophia was crying, her hands over her mouth. "Yes, God, yes. Of course, yes." Daniel slipped the ring on her finger, and they held each other on the bridge where they'd first connected through crisis, where a stranger had refused to walk past someone in pain, where one act of kindness had rippled out into something neither of them could have predicted. "You know what's funny?" Sophia said through tears. "Kevin still thinks he's a genius matchmaker. He has no idea that you and I had already met, that this connection existed long before his elaborate blind date setup. Should we tell him? Absolutely not. Let him think he's responsible for this. He'll be insufferable, but he'll also be happy. he will be. He's been nagging me to settle down for years. 2 years later, Daniel and Sophia stood in front of friends and family, exchanging vows. Kevin, serving as best man, gave a speech about how he'd known from the start that Daniel and Sophia were perfect for each other. "I saw something special in both of them," Kevin said, completely oblivious to the real story. "And I just knew that if I could get them in the same room, magic would happen." Sophia and Daniel caught each other's eyes and smiled. Let Kevin have his moment. The truth, that they'd met years before on a bridge, that Daniel had saved Sophia's life, that she'd spent years trying to find him again, that was their story. "Private and precious, thank you," Sophia whispered during their first dance, "for stopping on that bridge, for seeing me, for staying. Thank you for finding me again, for reminding me that work isn't life, for teaching me that being saved and saving someone aren't one-time events, that we save each other every day just by choosing to show up. Is that what we're doing? Saving each other? That's exactly what we're doing. One day at a time, for the rest of our lives." 5 years after that night on the bridge, Daniel stood in his living room watching Sophia work with a troubled teenager, patiently talking her through a crisis, offering hope and resources and the story of her own survival. The girl left looking lighter, more hopeful. Sophia collapsed on the couch, exhausted but satisfied. "Another life saved," Daniel observed. "Another life given a chance," Sophia corrected. "Just like you gave me a chance. And you gave me a chance at actually living instead of just existing. We're quite the pair, aren't we? The suicide preventer and the prevented, the stranger on the bridge and the woman who found him again, the man who thought it was a blind date, and the girl who whispered, 'I'm just here to say thank you.'" They sat together in comfortable silence. Two people who'd been brought together by crisis and kindness, who'd found love in the aftermath of pain, who'd built a life on the foundation of one stranger's refusal to walk past someone in need. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd walked past that bridge?" Sophia asked. "If you'd been too tired or too busy to stop?" "Every day. And every day I'm grateful I stopped. Because stopping led to everything that matters. To you, to us, to this life we've built. Me too. I'm grateful you stopped. I'm grateful I lived. I'm grateful I found you again. I'm grateful for Kevin's ridiculous matchmaking that gave me an excuse to thank you properly. And I'm grateful that what started as a blind date I didn't want became the best relationship I've ever had. Not a blind date. A thank you. A thank you that became a love story. The best kind of love story. The kind that starts with one person refusing to let a stranger give up. With one act of kindness that rippled out into years of joy. Daniel pulled Sophia close, holding her the way he'd wanted to that night on the bridge but hadn't. Holding her the way he got to hold her every day now. "One more day," he said softly. "That's all I asked you for. One more day, and you got thousands of them. And you'll get thousands more. All because I stopped. All because you cared." Outside, the city continued its endless rhythm. People walked past bridges, most never knowing the stories of those who stood on them. Most never stopping to check if a stranger was okay. But sometimes someone does stop. Someone sees pain and responds with compassion. Someone takes a moment from their busy life to be present with another human being in crisis. And sometimes that moment of caring changes everything, for both people, forever. Thank you for listening to this story. If it touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below telling us about a time when a stranger's kindness saved you, or about a moment when you stopped to help someone and it changed both your lives. Your stories remind us that we're all one crisis away from needing help, that stopping to care costs nothing but means everything, and that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness ripple out into the greatest love stories. Until next time, remember that the person next to you might be struggling, that your presence might be exactly what someone needs, and that stopping when you could walk past might just change two lives forever.